All right, hey, what's going on, good people? It's Coach Donald here with Global Human Performance, and today I want to bring you something a little different. Okay, so I want to set up a little video chat, and we're gonna have a little topic. Whenever I do these, it's gonna be related to running and strength training. I don't have a formal name for these just yet, but we're just gonna have some fun with it. So today I want to talk to you about warming up. Now, runners around the world may have just cringed in guilt at, I don't warm up before I run. Or they're thinking about that one person who they know is always on their P's and Q's, like, oh, she's always warming up. Shout out to one of the kids I train. I be catching her before her practice, getting her warm-ups in. So shout out to you. And I have other kids that, like, if I didn't make them warm up, they would roll out of bed and start running. And it's like, bruh. So I actually do have a battle with this myself before I go run. So, gym, I do all the proper stuff and make sure everybody does the proper thing. Listen, I understand the struggle. It is hard to warm up. It is hard to feel like warming up. Like, sometimes when I'm about to go run, I will struggle to go run simply because I don't feel like going to warm up to go do it. But like your joints are telling you, oh, you need to go warm up. And it's like, come on, man, can I just like go run and just like ease into it? And I mean, you can, but it's not the most optimal thing for your body. And you don't want to play with injuries, especially for those of you who are across that 30 mark or even past that 25 mark. Things start feeling weird in places that they just didn't feel when you were 18 years old. So, warming up, it's a struggle, but you got to get it done. It doesn't have to be anything crazy and super robust, although, that's fine. But if you're in a time crunch, there's a few things you can just do. So, I want to talk about, what's the purpose of warming up? And what is the purpose of that? When I'm doing my coaching sessions at the track, I have a lot of high school and middle school kids, and I have to beat this into their heads about the importance of why we do the prep work that we do. Now, they do a full-on, we're going through a lot of form work, and it's very technical. But even just with, people who are just trying to get a quick movement in before they go on their run, you still want to actually do this. And the reason for that, there's three big reasons. First of all, you want to get some blood flow in those joints. The muscles that are there, those muscles, if you've been sitting all day at work or you were just laying in bed, those muscles are quote unquote cold. There's no heat going in there. There's not really as much blood flow as there could be. So going through some basic movements helps get those muscles getting some blood flow in there. And it also helps with getting the joints to start moving so that their movement can be a lot cleaner. As you get older, you get that creakiness in the joints, they get a little stiff. So this is to help get that stiffness and creakiness out by getting some blood flow in there and raising the actual temperature of those joints by getting those the muscle temperature to go up. So when we talk about warming up, that's really where that term comes from. Getting the actual temperature of the muscles raised, and which does a good deal for the joints. Now, coming back to those joints, the other part of this is getting the tendons ready. Now, what we're doing that for is being able to make sure that they can handle the constant step, boom, 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 boom. Whether you're about to go and do a bunch of 200s or you're about to go run 10 miles, the tendons in your knees and ankles and hips, they got to be ready for that. And if they're not, you're going to feel that, all right? So I don't know if you've ever had this experience going out to run and like there's that little stiffness in that knee and it's just like you don't want to extend your leg out the way you normally would want to. Part of being able to get a good warm-up is to make sure that your tendon's ready for that. And again, if you are battling with some aches and pains or you are into that adulthood mark, these things are much more pronounced in things that you need to get done. Sometimes people are hurting themselves. You might just be hurting yourself because you're not warming up very well. So there's a big importance in being able to warm up, and your tendons are a big reason for that. Cold tendons cause pain. So that's a way to think about it. So number 3 is to work on some of that movement preparation. What I mean by that is when you start getting into your drills, your A-skips, your high knees, things like that, you want to start getting your body in the position that it needs to be able to get into when it comes to running. You want to practice being able to get your foot on the right spot of the ground. You want to practice being able to get your hips and knees in the right positions as you run. And so you do a variety of different running drills to help rehearse these positions, at the same time being able to get those tendons and muscles ready to go. So being able to practice that movement prep. When I do my running, I talk a lot about, and I rehearse to myself a lot about being able to land on that transverse arch of that foot and really being able to get right on the ball there. So a lot of these drills, nearly all of them, focus on being able to get there, being able to get that heel up to be able to step through, get the punch down. These are all things to rehearse while prepping, so that when it's game time to go out for my run, whether I'm going to go and run a bunch of 400s, whether I'm going to go and run, a 3, 4, 5 mile interval, or I'm going to go for like a 10-mile cruise, playing with those different types of runs, it still comes down to being able to do those essential things for each of them. And the more reps you can get in that warm-up of doing those little things right, the more it's going to carry over when it's time to actually get to the business. When you're running too fast to be thinking about all that, or like Friday, I did this 5-mile run, and it was a hard mile, an easy mile, a hard mile, easy mile, a hard mile. It was real hard trying to think about where to put my feet and my heels up when my heart wants to fall out of my chest because it was just hard. And so when you get into the meat potatoes of grinding through a workout, you don't want to have to be thinking about all these different aspects of form. You want to have enough rehearsal in so that it sticks. So that's the big reason of why you need it and what's necessary. Now, let's finish this up. Let's talk about what you should do in your warm-up. First of all, one of 3, right? You want some mobility work. That is getting the joints moving. That's not standing there touching your toes. Although if you do that at the beginning, it's not the end of the world. Like, that's fine. There's like this whole crusade against static stretching. Static stretching before your workout is fine. It's just not the only thing you should do. You should not probably spend too much time doing it if you're in a time crunch. Getting some dynamic movement in, so that's doing, different lunges or lateral lunges and leg pulls and a variety of those different movements that get the joints moving. That's what's going to raise the temperature of the muscles and get the tendons working. So you want to have some movement mobility work in there. Number 2, you want some muscle activation work. So there's this like buzzword, right? It was super hot in 2018 and still kind of in 2019. I don't hear so much about it in 2020, but that's because you got COVID as the buzzword. Glute activation, right? Oh my God, your glutes are turned off. True-ish, not really. But you do want to make sure that you are doing exercises to get those muscles primed and ready. So if your glutes didn't work, you wouldn't be able to stand up. So when we talk about your glutes being off, they're not working while you're sitting, and you do need to do something to get those muscles more in the game, in a sense, once you've done sitting for 3 hours. But you wouldn't be able to stand there if your glutes were just not activated. Now, when we talk about, you have different glute muscles, right? You have your big glutes, the ones that everybody's obsessed with, your glute max, you have your glute med, glute min, and you have a bunch of these little muscles in there. Those muscles are the ones that you really want to make sure are ready to go. Those muscles are your hip stability muscles, and if those muscles ain't on, your knees on the outside, they might come talk to you. And it's going to help you with being able to just have a much more stable running stride. So you want some activation work. That is really starting to do some movement and more strenuous work. So we do a lot of isometric holds. Isometric holds are great for getting the tendons ready to go, and there's a constant pulse to the muscle to get the muscles ready to go. So while we talk about there's no such thing as like your muscles not being activated, there is a such thing as getting your muscle very well stimulated and primed, ready to go. And that's a little different thing. That's getting more of those muscle fibers and the nerves that go with them ready to go. We do a lot of iso holds for that, and then that's getting into more strenuous things like lunges, squats, or getting into like high knee runs that really start getting those muscles activated. Then that third piece is doing some movement prep work. That is your drilling, your A skips. Maybe you're doing some light plyos in your warm-up. You're practicing striders and different variations of that. That is getting you, in the game of getting your body ready to run. If you're going to do some sprints, you want that movement preparation piece to then be, all right, we're going to practice some submaximal sprints, or we're going to practice build-up sprints, really working on aspects of form, where that part almost becomes a practice. If you're doing longer runs, whether it's like for multiple miles, striders are great. A lot of these same drills are still great, but now you're focusing on the finer points of running. And even if it's one of those, I'm just going to do a quick 10-minute warm-up, even a 5-minute warm-up, because I just rolled out of bed, and I rolled out of bed a little late, so I just got 5 minutes to warm up because I have a certain amount of time to get this run in. You can still hit the mobility work, you can hit the activation piece, and you can get some preparation work in, which is going to do you a lot of justice rolling out of bed right before it starts. So I would take a look at doing that, okay? So that's our first piece about warming up and the things that you need to be doing to take care of yourself, okay? So we got some kiddos coming in here to train. I'm happy to share this with you. Leave a comment, share this, like it, share it with somebody who runs, who doesn't warm up. Share it with one of those warm-up slackers, okay? And tell them, I told you so, all right? So, good to talk to you. Make sure you check out the page. The YouTube and Instagram is at Coach Donald. My Instagram is Coach_Donald. And, like it, subscribe. And we'll have more of these coming. We're working on making this into like a podcast, but we'll see what happens here. Peace out. Have a good rest of your day. And make sure you warm up before you run.